Hey guys, this is Holistic Health Harry, and today I'm joined by a beautiful soul that I met recently, through another beautiful soul that I met recently, um, Bristena. How are you?
Hi, Harry. It's lovely to be here with you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like really cool. So you do at the moment a lot of things. You're training for a lot of things. You've got a lot of qualifications. You're a really interesting person. You're training for psychotherapy. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm a psychotherapist in training at the Institute of Psychosynthesis, London.
Mm.
Um, Probably will take me 2 more years to finish and become a fully fledged psychotherapist. But yeah, I love this work, man. It's everything that I feel passionate and makes meaning in my life. So I'm really happy to be here and tell you all about it.
Yeah, I'm happy to for you to share your story, but also to all your masteries and the things you're learning currently. So you're quite young, and I think you're from Romania. Is that correct originally?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So what motivated you to kind of I mean, in a way, upheaval your life, move country, and go on this healing path? Was it accidents, or yeah, just go into a bit of that.
Oh man, this is such a long story. I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. But yeah, since I was pretty young, I had this feeling that I would leave my country in search of a better life, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, initially I came here to do law, so I was, top student. I was admitted into a top class university, King's College Law, and I did 1 year, and then just my whole life turned upside down in the meantime, because everything that I had built myself towards to be who I thought myself to be, in in the meantime, while studying this course and alongside that, meeting different people that opened my mind to new possibilities and ways of seeing myself and the world, I just came to a standstill at some point. I think I must have reached a point some people call either dark night of the soul or a spiritual awakening, or just a moment where you have to take the blue pill or the red pill.
Yeah.
So it was basically a choice between treading this conventional path that was very clearly laid out ahead of me, and it was
And by
going
the
to be.
way, not to interrupt, but like I guess your parents, I'm assuming here, would have been like more proud, if you carried on the other path, maybe. So that would have made it harder too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was such a tough decision because I just couldn't find myself in it anymore. It was I was being pushed, not pushed, but I was encouraged to take that path because of my intellectual capacities and this and that. But
Mm,
truly, my heart wasn't in it.
mm.
So yeah, I knew at the time it was gonna be world shattering for my family, and it was, and I couldn't even tell them for 1 year. It
Well,
was that bad.
yeah.
I was
Oh,
so
you was
so
lying for you
afraid.
then, were you? Was it in effect kind of like hiding the
Yes,
truth?
I was pretty much so, because I was so afraid that if I was gonna tell them, they were gonna convince me to go back. And I was holding on to dear life to just something new. I didn't know what at that point,
Yeah.
but I knew that I had to just follow my heart and just, I like to say artistically, plunge into the unknown and just follow my own calling, whatever that was, because I wasn't sure at the time what it was going to be, but I had a few inklings. So what really stood out for me when I met a few people that I truly deeply resonated with soulfully, and I felt really seen and heard and really felt for who I was, um, they opened my mind to healing, to personal and spiritual development. And however, I mean, I was already pulled in that direction from a few years before.
Mm,
So even as a young child, I had always a much more, um how to say, I always had really deep questions. I
yeah.
always inquired into things, into life, into the meaning of things.
Yeah.
I always felt I was different from most people, always a bit more sensitive, a bit more philosophical, a bit more artistic. And then
Mm,
I started to explore anything that had to do with spirituality, with Buddhism, with meditation and yoga and all of these things. And
mm.
then when these people came into my life around that time, when I was so confused and unsure what my path was, yeah, they really helped me to consider the possibility of, wow, actually, why don't I just continue on this path of personal spiritual development and see where it takes me?
Yeah.
And so here I am today, having followed that, that true calling, I like to say, or a call of my true self. And here I am helping others embody more of that too, finding more of their true self, and having a healthier and more peaceful life as a result.
Yeah, I love that answer. I love the way you describe it too. Yeah, it's such a challenge. I can relate to you on many levels. I mean, my parents put pressure on me. Then my dad's Indian, my mum, they invested a lot in my growing up. So they spent a lot of money on me and went to private school my entire life. And I did well to a degree at school, like a really well, then it went really horribly wrong at school at the same time towards the end. So I was pushed towards this higher path, and it could have been, I actually look, Bristena is a bit scary if I did take the other path now, which I could easily have trapped in. I mean, it would have hurt me being normal ultimately, which is not something I really want to judge other people on, but for me, it would have been heartbreaking. So yeah, I can relate to you on that level. It's a very brave thing to do. I feel like a lot of us get these opportunities and a lot of people don't take them. So when you do, it's like really, it's rewarding for you. It's the right thing to do. It's not easy, but then that's the path that we've got to do to help people, because you would have been something else if you hadn't done this. So yeah, fair props to you.
Absolutely. And I think what really made a difference for me at the time were those people that became my crutches, so to speak. Like I had to lift myself up from all of that, I like to say, the tangled web of conditioning, of ways that I was supposed to be, or supposed to behave, or supposed to think that was normal. So all of that, this complicated, conditioned, entrenched patterns.
Yeah.
It's not easy to lift yourself up from that on your own. So I needed to have people there that supported this new emergence, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not enough to have an understanding or an idea. I think sometimes you really need to be held in community and by people who really moved by that, who really feel like, yeah, I really want to be here for you because I see something else in you that wants to be born. And I see that on your own, you might not be able to do that. So we need these midwives in certain times in our
Oh
life,
God,
for sure.
yeah, you need people to push you to that zone, or you could do it by yourself, but it's so much harder if you've got people to you. So what was your action? So you left your law degree, and what was the first action you took after that then? Did you go on a course on something else?
Yeah. So my boyfriend at the time, he introduced alternative therapies in my life.
Cool.
So he was have you heard of EFT tapping?
Yeah, emotional freedom technique.
Yeah. Emotional freedom technique and matrix imprinting, which is inner child work with EFT. Anyway, he started giving me a few sessions, and I was just mind blown because all of a sudden, all of this spiritual wisdom that I was reading about, listening from YouTube videos and from all these books of all this incredible well of wisdom from many traditions and cultures, suddenly it wasn't just knowledge, there were tools that I found that were available in order to bring that knowledge from your mind, from your conceptual understanding into your felt experience, and to actually heal your wounds and release whatever attachments or identifications that are not serving you, to actually release them in a practical way. So suddenly I was shown that practical transformation was possible.
Yeah,
and
free too. Free.
Yeah.
Not expensive, is it?
Yeah. So I was fascinated by that. I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna do this. So I saved up some money, I dropped out of law, and I embarked on this course straight away. That was all I knew. That was all I had at the time. I had no idea what else was gonna come after that. I was also doing bubble busking in London for 10 quid an hour.
Were you? What busking did you say? Bubble busking. What was that word?
Giant bubbles.
Bubbles.
With
okay.
Huge strings like that.
Oh, that's funny. You're busking in London with that.
Anyway, that's a funny story. My ex used to say, "Oh, so you dropped out of law to go out into the street to blow bubbles?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
If
no,
only your
it was
parents
meant
could have
to
seen that,
be.
they would have been they would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, but without those very wobbly steps at first,
Yeah.
you wouldn't just try it on for size
No, and I
and
like that story too. You've got to start the low at the bottom. Like if you want to reach the top, man, come on. Like you've got to do stuff like for money. Like we all done stuff for money to get us to where we need to go. So yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
So yeah, like so that's cool. So EFT tapping, the course was like the beginning of an entry into other things because I've seen on your website you seem to have got a lot of qualifications and you know a lot too, obviously. But then you've got a lot of titles and things that you've learned beyond EFT. So that's cool. It
Yeah,
was
that was just the start. And I just explored from there on loads of different modalities, maybe some of them deeper, other ones on a more shallow level. So I've just been, like a butterfly,
yeah,
absorbing so much experiences and information and going to this course and that course and just really wanting to like take on board as much as I could in order to make sense of this new reality that was dawning on me, that I am my creator and
yeah,
that I have the power to change my life. And all of these maybe beliefs or behaviors that are not serving me, they can be transformed, but I need a lot of support. I need a lot of ways of doing that. So yeah, I guess I started, for example, participating in family constellations workshops or going to
mm,
somatic experiencing or yeah, a lot of EFT. Yeah, just a lot of psycho spiritual tribes, I like to call them.
yeah,
But not just, also for fun. A lot of it was also for fun, going to a conscious festival and going to all these workshops and you
yeah.
know this
Isn't it
and that.
great
It's
to
just,
meet new people sometimes? I mean, yes, the information is great, but sometimes it's the connection with other people that resonate on a level with you, that understand you for you, which you start doing when you experience this thing and you start feeling more of a tribe. Like often when you're alone as a kid and you're just like alienated, you're like, oh, no one gets me. And then the more these go to these events, the more you realize that you're actually sane and other people. It's really, I think a lot of these events, yeah, the information is phenomenal. It blows our mind, but it's the people too, like the people around you.
it's so spot on because
Mm,
those people they hold that frequency, and then when we are ready to elevate ourselves at that frequency, then we are a magnet for those people at the same frequency, and then coming together makes it even bigger and brighter for us. It grows us, enriches us. So
yeah.
I was very, very fortunate that my life here in London has really given me so many incredible opportunities for meeting incredible people. And, here I am meeting you, talking to you, about these things.
Oh, I'm nothing, but thanks. Oh, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. So also with that, so you do a lot of things in your life right now. What's your main is your main thing that you do at the moment? I know you do everything, a little bit of everything. Like psychology the main thing that you coach and teach? Is that the one you want
Yeah,
to build as your main focus, or do you want to be a
yeah.
bit of everything?
At the moment, the focus is on, becoming a psycho-spiritual psychotherapist. So the modality I'm training in is called psychosynthesis. Have you heard about it?
No, I don't think I have. No.
Okay. What comes to mind when I say synthesis?
Synthesize something is it to put a load of information into one to like explain it simply, like to collaborate or something, kind of say the word, like I don't know, like is that it? Like to put it into to synthesize is to conclude or to I don't know. I know it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think you're getting there. It's, I think, to put it simply, just to kind of bring information, bring things together, and
Right.
create like the sum of the parts is bigger than the parts themselves, right? So something
Yeah.
like that. In terms of our psychological development, psychosynthesis in my mind means that we have so many different opposing, conflicting wishes and desires and impulses and
Mm,
needs and all of these things that sometimes we can't really make sense of in ourselves because they're so different and they want different things, and all these parts of us might, contradict each other. So psychosynthesis is a framework of working with the human psyche that helps to bring more balance, more unity, more alignment with that true nature that I was mentioning earlier, that true self. So it's about finding that center point inside of yourself where you are at peace with yourself, where you know who you are, where you have self-awareness, where you have where you feel in charge of yourself, of your mind, of your feelings, of your actions in the world. And from that place, you can be self-directed rather than history driven, we say, because the history has,
or trauma driven.
Trauma driven, yeah, the history have molded us to behave in certain ways, to look at the world in certain ways, which might be distorted because of bad things happen to us. So then we start thinking the world is unsafe or the world is a bad place. But maybe that just means that we were traumatized and we were never able to resolve or dissolve that trauma.
Yeah.
So then we carry on these distorted ways of thinking, and that's not to say it in a judgmental way, but with full of compassion and deep understanding for how, what the impact of trauma does in our life. And there's just such a huge well of knowledge and research into the impact of trauma neurobiologically, psychologically these days. You can look at that. I think I got carried away because if you get me started on this, I'm going to keep going.
Well,
So,
no, it's an interesting topic though, isn't it? I've been thinking about it lately in my simple terms. I actually think you'll probably agree with this, that we're all immensely traumatized to varying degrees, which would shock even ourselves because we have no comprehension. Just as I also think we are so awesome in a way that we have no comprehension of how absolutely awesome we are, and how amazing all this is, the brain, the body. I also think it goes really deep. I get this idea when I take psychedelics a lot, that like, damn, there's so much healing that we all have to do. Even us as light workers, perhaps even us more than other people. It's a very deep topic. Do you think actually that you can clear it in one lifetime? Because I actually think that you can't. I mean, I know we can do a lot, incredible amount. Do you think, well, I don't even know if there's a place where you can just magically all disappear and you're all perfect. I don't even think that exists. Do you?
I think we are consciousness that is forever evolving. Therefore, there is no end to it. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Even if we get to such an advanced, like the master stage, like Jesus and Buddha, well, maybe they are also progressing still. I mean, does it ever end? I don't know. I don't know.
No,
but
I don't think
the
it does.
point is to keep staying involved and actively part of your own process, like to be an active participant in your own process of development of healing, because we can, because otherwise we stay at the level of being a victim of our life circumstances.
Right.
And that's a very disempowering, that's a very fearful, that's a very stuck and small place to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise we can say, you know what, there's so much information out there available, there's so many people who are taking charge of themselves in a way that helps them to become bigger and brighter, and to, as you say, harness and cultivate that potential that is innately ours. It's our birthright. It's something that we all have inside of us, this drive, this longing to become more of ourselves. But these patterns from the past, from our traumas, they keep us stuck in certain repeated cycles and patterns of behavior that if you really look at them and analyze them, you can see that actually they're not serving us. So if you see that, you can seek support, or you can help yourself, or you can use tools or medicines or people, anything that is available, because the world is plenty rich of these kinds of modalities and people at the moment to help yourself out of that. And this is what I love to do, to help people, break free of those limitations and embody more of their infinite potential.
Yeah, that must be so amazing. So are you working with people right now with that, as you're training?
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can answer this. What kind of, what is the majority of the people that you see? Are they like severely traumatized and it's very obvious? I feel like some of us are more subtle, but of course we've all got traumas. What kind of cases are you dealing with overall? And what brings you the most joy? Is it the ones that are really severe and really obvious, or is it the more subtle where they can explore and go deeper? Which ones?
Okay, that's a good question, because obviously I've only just started half a year ago, started seeing clients. So
Oh,
it's
right.
pretty new for me, and
Yeah.
I'm just loving it so much. To answer your question, I think, yeah, I do have a case of a more severely traumatized person that I'm working with, and the other one's a bit less.
Mm.
However, it's not so much about the gravity of the trauma, but it's also about the willingness of that person to work through it. And alongside the willingness, there needs to be some kind of capacity for self-reflection, some kind of a motivation, a strong enough motivation that person needs to have,
Mm.
that they want to address their traumas. Because if
Right.
there isn't that in place, then they're not going to engage with this hard work. It's just very, very
I didn't
tough.
even think of that. You can't help them then, you're saying, if they don't have the willingness to engage. Didn't even think of that.
No, that
Yeah.
is that is the driving factor, and that's, you know, that's what's bringing them here as well.
Mm.
Without that, they wouldn't be seeking help. So it's like a collaboration, a co-creation. I'm not giving them the answers. I'm not here to give advice. I'm here to hold a space. I'm here to guide and direct the inquiry and the exploration, and to, you know, obviously, because I've been doing this for many years now and my training is in depth, so I understand some of the potential pitfalls, some of the stages, some of the details of this process. But ultimately,
Mm.
everyone's got their own journey, and everyone's gonna go through their own, yeah, way with it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah. Like, do you feel with your profession that you're gonna develop into with this, that you're gonna use your own life experiences in it? Or is it one where you just have a set protocol and you stick to that and you learn stuff about it? Is it enable a bit of your what you know before?
Very
Is it
much
one of those?
so.
Mm.
Very much so.
Mm.
I think that without my life experiences, I wouldn't be able to relate um, in a deep way. And ultimately, you know, we're all essentially the same, essentially human, but we're
Yeah.
all essentially unique. So that similarity, you know, the more I understand myself on a deeper level, the more I heal on a deeper level, the more my capacity increases for me to really be present with another person in their deep struggle and turmoil and healing.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly doing the work on myself, and seeing clients has even accelerated that process for me, because
Mm.
whilst I'm there holding space for someone, that keeps bringing stuff up for me that I have to integrate and assimilate, and not get that in the way of me really being present with them. So what I'm talking about is, I have to be there in a deep, open-minded way with someone, and
Yeah.
not project my own ideas or my own beliefs or what they should be doing or where they should be.
Yeah. Which is
And that
hard, I
takes,
would have thought.
it's
Even,
hard.
yeah.
It's
You
hard.
want to,
It's
yeah.
hard. And I'm
Yeah.
human, and every professional, like in this domain, they're all humans, and
Yeah.
that requires
Because I
some
also get the
serious.
impression with you that you're a bit like me. You've got a good left brain. You've got a good right brain too, I'm sure, the creative side, but you've got a good, like, analytical, this is how you do it. Like, there's a part of you I can see. I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know
Yeah,
how to, mm,
totally. Yeah.
yeah,
So you have to sometimes rely on that, and you know that gives you many clues, and that the left brain helps to understand things. But if you're also aware that they can also get in the way when you think you know, when you think you've got it, that
yeah,
sometimes is a trap. That sometimes prevents you from being open and curious about what is actually going on, because you think you
right,
already know.
yes. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man, this is deep. Do you know, thanks for, by the way, for sending me to that Gabor Mate trauma video. I liked him before, but I need to revisit it because such an important topic. There was
Yeah.
one thing that there was loads, there was so much going on. One thing I thought about that he said was like, if you just listen to people, they can heal. And it's tied in with what you just said now. And that's
Mhm.
kind of, he also said something like trauma only develops really. It's not what happens to you. It's the fact that when something bad's happened to you, you don't feel like you're being heard and seen. That's been on my mind
Yeah.
a lot too. And it's
Yeah.
tied in with that. Like, and you're saying you know, part of it, psychotherapy is just like seeing people, isn't it? Like listening.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting shivers as you say that. Like,
Oh,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
That is it. That is it. And he speaks so beautifully about it.
Mm,
Where do I go with that? I mean, Yeah, trauma is not what happens to us, but
Yeah.
what happens inside of us as a result, when we feel isolated, when we feel disconnected, when we feel unloved, uncared for. And that
Mm,
might not be the case, but that is our experience. And so trauma is essentially disconnection from oneself. Um,
mm,
this is also said by Peter Levine, who is the founder of somatic experiencing, a somatic way of addressing and healing traumas. So really, that's why Kabor says there is wisdom in trauma, because if you then turn towards it instead of trying to run away from it because it's too painful.
mm.
However, if you instead turn towards it with a loving, compassionate gaze on your own, or with a therapist or a guide or whoever you know, even a priest, whoever is there to assist you on that journey,
Yeah.
um, then you can also find your way back into connecting with yourself, because that is how you disconnected from yourself. You know, it was
Yeah.
something too painful that happened to you, that it was unbearable. So it was your body's wisdom of helping you to deal with that by disconnecting you from yourself, because
Yeah.
it was too much. You couldn't feel yourself anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what happens in those traumas. And we're not necessarily talking about big traumas, you know, we're talking about even emotional, small emotional things that build up over time.
Yeah.
They are severely impactful.
Severely. Oh my God, I can go so many places. We could make this 10 hours. I've got like loads of things going through my mind. So yeah, with protection, I feel, yeah, I agree with you. Like there's the you can get so pained in the mind, like emotionally, forget about physical abuse and all that stuff, like emotionally. The ego, I think, is what they call it, protects you, right? So the ego, I'll run this by you, this is what I think. Like the ego keeps you alive, yeah. And normally you have most of us have somewhat relatively positive self-esteem. I understand the matrix takes the self-esteem down a little bit, but most people, if we're being real, have a kind of positive self-esteem. With people that are severely traumatized emotionally, mentally, physically, the ego now switches from a positive, I love myself validation to a, oh shit, now I'm going to, it feels invisible. You start to feel invisible, and the ego really doesn't like this. The ego can't take being invisible. Like when you start losing the positive love of yourself, the invisibility hurts. So what the ego does, I feel, is it gives you to a negative addiction to negative attention in your life. Whether that mean interactions with your friends, with strangers, you start changing your personality, start changing to the person that has low self-esteem, manifestations of which I think of like your annoying art that talks too much, the person that's crazy and lovable, and I can see it in myself, this low self-esteem damage. I went down that dark hole of negative attention seeking. It's because the ego was protecting me. And then that's the
Yeah.
journey, like of healing that ego from, oh, you don't need to get addicted to this negative attention. You, maybe it's nice to just get addicted maybe to the opposite, because I feel like you go down the dark path of addiction to the negative tension. The way I figured out of it, I hope for my healing, is I'll get addicted to the positive, like a yin yang, and then I'll come back to balance in the middle some point, hopefully. Like because it's self-esteem damage, what I'm talking about. It's all linked. Trauma, I think, is linked to self-esteem, and we're all suffering from
Absolutely.
this low self-esteem and trying to get by, and it will literally develop a personality where you can tell someone with low self-esteem, not that you're judging them, you can just tell because the trauma that they've been through, it, you know, it's a lot, and it was too hard for them to accept. Like, so you have to become a different person, and it's hard, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's really excruciating if you really break it down and really look at what happens. But it's so quintessential that we do, because if we don't understand what fucked us up,
Mm.
we don't have a chance to like unfuck ourselves. Excuse my language, but
Yeah.
you know, it was biologically, it was a necessity that we in childhood developed these beliefs that there's something wrong with us, that we should be ashamed of ourselves, because our caregivers, our parents, it was their fault that they didn't know how to handle their children.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
the little child has to create this belief about themselves, because otherwise, if they think the parent, you know, that they rely on their
Mm.
parents for their safety, for their survival, so they have to internalize this. Otherwise, they wouldn't know how to cope.
Yeah.
So it is a defense, it is a protection mechanism to turn this abuse or this neglect or this abandonment, to turn it and to make it mean something about yourself. But that is not really what happened. And it's really our job, if we want to evolve as human beings, to untangle all of those really painful defenses and mechanisms, you know, as you say, the negative self-talk, the attention to negative attention, all addiction, sorry, to negative attention, and all of these, so many ways of that we found, addictions to shopping, to sex, to work, addiction to, there's so many kinds of addictions. And what is addiction? Is a deep disconnection from oneself, is an attempt to fill the void, is an attempt to numb the pain of being ourselves. It's tough.
Yeah. We have to numb the pain of being ourselves because it's too painful what we've been through. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. You put it so well, and it's so needed that more and more and more of us do this work on ourselves, because it is possible, because there are tools, there is the knowledge available more and more and more widely. There are, you know, huge wave of people training to be healers, coaches, counselors, psychotherapists, you name it. Like, it's so needed in the collective field right now. Like, humanity is going through so many changes and shifts in consciousness, and we're all trying to adapt and to find new ways that are healthier for our own benefit, from the benefit of everyone. Because if you look at the state of the world, how messed up things are, and how much we've harmed the planet because we are so harmed ourselves that we're just playing that out outside of ourselves. I don't know who said that, maybe it was in the documentary. We've harmed Mother Earth because we're so disconnected from our own bodies.
Isn't that true? Yeah, we think
Yeah,
nothing of doing that shit.
from the planet in the
Yeah,
same way.
the things we need. So, oh my God, there's one thing I've been thinking, you made me think of too. Like, so when you're dealing with people that are victims, for good or bad, because of what they've been through, like, they need to switch that from like, I'm the victim, this is me, permanently, to a growth, like I'm going to change and evolve. But what I think potentially could hold them back from that is the people around them see them as this person, because if they've always been a victim in the past and they have a desire to change now all of a sudden to grow, it's going to be hard because the people around you see you as this person. And a lot of the people around you, from my own life and for our own life, we can say that there's a lot of people that when you go from victim to growth, loads of people are going to pull in your friendship circle and close to you, including your family, will try and hold you back. So what I'm saying is, like, this is another challenge people got to go. Not only are they going through their own process of, oh, I desire to change, they've also got people holding them back that's going to stop them. And that comes back to what you said of how important it is to hang around with people that are going to support you on your journey, because that's rare. If we're being real, often our families, our blood families, our friends at the time, they're not going to support you. So you've got people got a lot to deal with. Not only they've got their own shit to deal with, they've got to change up their friendship circles, leave people potentially. Yeah, it's so hard, like at the beginning. Jesus.
Well, you know what, it all happens in its own time, and it's something that happens gradually. You know, some people do have extreme moments that we like to call crises, like, you know, as I mentioned before, the dark night of the soul, and you have these like really big light bulb moments that really prompt you to want to change. But otherwise, the change can happen in many ways. It can be like those intense bouts, or it can be something gradual that happens over time, or a mixture of both, because in my journey it's been a mixture of both. It's always been both. It's like I have these major growth spurts, and then I go through a phase that's stable and steady, and then something happens and something's coming up, and there's another layer of the trauma that I'm processing. And it's like really rocky and turbulent and really like stormy. And then I get all the help and all the resources and all the holding and the support that I need, and then I overcome that, and then I'm reborn again, and I just go through this over and over and over again.
Yeah, I like that. The cycles of the yin yang, like the cycles of learning. Do you believe for us that it's divinity that's pushing you towards this, the divine path from consciousness or God or something? Or is it all an accident?
Absolutely, there is we come from the divine. Like, the reason why I chose to study psychosynthesis is because it's the only psychology that includes the spiritual dimension
Mm,
in the in our psychological work, because so much of the Western psychology is divorced from spirituality, is
mm,
very much analytical at the level of the mind. It stops at the level of the mind.
mm,
And that's all well and fine. And the mind is a wonderful tool. But if we don't include all of ourselves, which is, I mean, I've always had a connection with divinity, with spirit. I've always had that longing, or that knowing, or that feeling that there is something more,
mm,
that there is something more that connects a soul, and that is this, intelligent force that permeates all existence. And if you look at all traditions, they all speak in one way or another of the same thing.
mm.
So to me, that is just that is so normal to think about it like that. But for some people, it's not. Anyway, the reason why I chose to study psychosynthesis is because it's just such such an elegant way of looking at how
Yeah,
spirit comes into matter and
yeah,
becomes embodied as human beings. And we have always this longing for, we call it the divine homesickness, that as if you're missing the place that is not quite here, but you don't quite not know how to put your finger on it, but there's something more that you're seeking. you're
mm,
you're seeking more of yourself, more of bringing your divinity into your humanity, your those values of unconditional love, of unity, of compassion, of forgiveness, all of these
mm.
things that were taught by the masters, by Jesus and by Buddha. These are divine love principles, so to speak. And so we have this longing to bring more of that in our lives, intrinsically or essentially.
Yeah. I guess that's why I like psychedelics, because sometimes I get a taste of that in psychedelics. I'm like, oh, this is actually not just a fun thing, a temporary experience that I'm having fun. This is more like something that I would like to tap more into in my waking state that I know I can achieve, because the psychedelics aren't really, there's something outside of me that's just showing me me. And I'm like, oh, so I can get to that, I guess, without it. So that's cool.
mm. It
Yeah.
is true that I also had my encounters with psychedelics in a deeply transformational way. They were
Mm,
teachers, they were wonderful tools for me. I
mm,
don't advocate for them to be used, without proper knowledge or guidance,
mm.
but they can be very potent tools for exploring one's own consciousness and liberating oneself from those entrenched patterns of thinking or being that I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
Because they help, they I don't know what they do, but they expand your being, they expand your perspective, and then you can see, oh, that's where I get caught. Oh my God, that's not who I really am.
Yeah.
But I'm more than this. And then the point, the work really is about integrating that knowledge
Yeah.
into your day-to-day life. And so yeah, those changes are
Yeah.
happening, can happen. And as you say, they
Mm,
will impact those around you, especially who knew you to be a different person, and it's going to challenge them a
yeah.
lot. So then it's your choice how you're going to deal with that. If they are holding you back, if they are toxic, you can find your way towards more healthy people in your life, or maybe those people can also begin to grow alongside you. There's myriad of possibilities, but yeah,
Yeah.
when one of us changes, it does impact the field between us and other people around us. And me and my family, I mean,
Yeah.
at first it was really, really hard for them to
Mm,
understand what I was going through, because it was so foreign, it was so
mm.
unimaginable for them that I would begin to think in all these strange ways.
Yeah, I mean, did
But
they
then,
invest a lot of money in you? Did they see you as
yeah,
a conditional love? Like, if she achieves all the things that we expect, like an expectation, like like to
yeah,
become
it was
something.
that. But I also felt unconditional love from my family.
Oh, that's good.
So there
Yeah.
was a mixture of both.
Mm,
I feel like, yeah, I've been pretty blessed. It's
mm,
been tough. But in some other ways, I've also felt supported, not, nonetheless.
mm.
But with time, because even though it was turbulent in the first few years, and I was very much all over the place, not really knowing, who I was, because I was looking for that. I was searching, I was trying to discover.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
once I had more of my grounding. And once I found more of myself, then they started to see, actually, she makes sense. Actually, she knows what she's talking about now, and she looks healthier, happier, and better than she was before. So
Right.
they just,
Yeah.
yeah.
You do come across
I
as really
imagine
grounded. It's really cool. Like, you are a very grounded person, I can tell. So that's really well done to you for that. Yeah.
well done to me and to the people around me and to this training and
Yeah.
to everything,
Exactly.
like I give
Yeah.
credit to all the people in my life that have held me and taught me and seen me along this journey.
Yeah. It's really cool. Definitely. Can I share with you as well quickly then? Because I did a mushroom trip for two days ago for the summer solstice by accident. It wasn't on purpose for that day. Actually, Kirsty gave it to me, and I had I think it's 1.5 or 1. It wasn't a lot, and I knew that I could do stuff. So I went like down with my family, my dad, and we're all traumatized here, not just me, my parents too. And I had a huge realization I never would have had. And I'm quite a smart person, if I'm being honest. I thought I'm quite observational, but it really shocked me the lessons I got from the mushroom without. I wouldn't have got it with my dad because I went down. I realized something really deep that, my dad's healing, but my dad's never had a strong masculine presence in his life because he's never been one, unfortunately. And he's a nice person, a nice soul. But I just had that realization that because what happened was the mushrooms pushed me into a land where I wasn't even my higher self. I was an extremely high self. Like I was in a like really high vibration, chill, relaxed, present place. I was watching the football with him. And I was like, oh, I get it now. I know what's going on with all my interactions with him. Like there's a craving and desire for him to have his own role model, to have another masculine presence, which I couldn't offer him without the mushrooms. I mean, I'm developing into that character, but I've got a lot of work to do myself. But the mushrooms gave me the space to actually embody that for that second at time. And I was playing a different character of guys that are above me, that are some of my best friends that I need to hang out more with, that are like really, whatever you want to call it, divine masculine. So I was being that. And I was like, oh, so what he wanted, it wasn't like he hates me. Like that's not really what it's about. He's just traumatized and he's wanted, just as I crave strong masculine role models in my life, my dad does too. So I shouldn't really judge him. Like even if he doesn't like me, it's all the projections because I'm challenging him because I'm trying to be there for him and becoming this person that ultimately, unconsciously, he wants a strong masculine role model, but consciously he doesn't want it because there's resistance because he's a person that doesn't want to consciously grow. Consciously, he does want it. His heart wants it to have these masculine role models, like his son to be a strong masculine for him, for his own healing. He needs me to be strong for his own healing, but he doesn't know that logically. And I figured it all out. And it was the mushrooms that took me to that. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's exciting. I can do this. I could change my dad by changing me. It's cool.
But you're not doing that because
Mm.
what was I going to say?
Yeah.
It happens as a result. It can happen, but it's not like you go and change him, but he can, in and
Yeah.
of himself,
Yeah.
begin
Yeah.
changing.
I'm not setting out to change. I'm just figuring out that that's what all of his hate towards me was really just a lack of a strong, when you are an undivine, I don't want to put these words into it, but if you can't become your best self unless you have, as a guy, unless you have strong masculine role models. That's part of your healing. Like if you're a weak man, you need to be around, through trauma, you need to be around strong guys. I do, and everyone does. You need to be around strong feminines and strong masculines. We're the same but different. And the hate for me comes from the fact that he's been seeing me, my sincere attempts to transform from a weak to a strong. And that's where the hate comes from, because it reflects that he didn't do it. But ultimately, I think I can get into a path. By the way, I'm obsessed more with myself than my dad. My own healing is way more important. But I can get to a point, I think, where I could heal him by becoming strong myself. The stronger I get in my masculine, it automatically gives him permission to change unconsciously. That's why the resistance comes from him. But that's where I can heal him a little bit. I can be a role model for him. Whether he resists that consciously or not is up to him. But I can see it. I can see it now. But it took the mushrooms to see that. I don't know why. It really did. Like, it's amazing.
Well, I think we're being given these insights when we're ready for them. So it sounds like you're in a place in your development where you could take this next step.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you listening to that and sharing it. So, yeah. Also, another thing I saw with you is you do massages, do you? You've done massage therapy as well. Jesus, Bristena, what don't you do?
Well, you have to make a living as well whilst you're still studying. So there you go. That's been my
Yeah,
way of making a living.
it's good. I like it. It's like the holistic health. Like, I mean, one thing is great. That's a mastery. But if you do a lot of different things, you know a lot, like the EFT. There's so many healing modalities out there to help people. Do you find with psychotherapy quickly that is it the one that can heal all? Or do you recommend people to do all kinds of different things when you're helping them? I mean, with your clients, do you stay with one thing? Do you go all over the place?
Mm. Well, there's just there's a variety of approaches, of tools, of techniques, which are all wonderful, and they can all be used at different points, whenever it feels relevant for where the person is at. But I guess the way I look at people is, I just try to feel into where the creative tension is, where there's a willingness for this next step, where like I can't give them more than they can handle, but I can just really tune in and see where they're at and what is possible for them as their next small realizable step, so to speak, in their
Yeah,
development. I still feel like there's just so much that I want to learn. It's just never ending. It's
yeah,
like, what I'm studying right now is, pretty integrative and holistic, but I feel like, man, I could just, keep on doing courses my whole life. And I have to ask myself, where is that desire coming from? Is it just because I feel like I'm never ever going to be good enough and I'm never going to be like that perfect healer that I want to be? Or
yeah,
is
yeah.
it that genuine desire to evolve and enrich myself? And there's a little bit of both. So,
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to
just
say that.
giving
Yeah, it's
you,
in both, isn't it? Like, it's what drives you
giving you
ultimately, like the perfectionism that we all suffer from. But then that's what, yeah, the suffering, all that stuff. Like, yeah, it's definitely though the passion. Though I can relate to you. The courses, the learning, it's endless. Like, I know
yeah.
so little, so little. But yeah, that's cool. Definitely.
Did that answer your question? Because I could say one more thing is that, if
Mhm.
I feel someone needs a different kind of therapy, I'm gonna, send them off and recommend them onwards. Or,
Mm.
but generally, people who do get drawn to me, they've been through my website and they resonate. There's a resonance, there's an energetic alignment. That's why they come to me, otherwise they wouldn't. So I just trust that. I trust that anyone who comes to me is been divinely guided, and so
Yeah.
far that's just been the case. The people that I've been working with so far, I mean, there's so much mutual learning. I mean, they become my teachers.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And then you're going to see them because you said you're kind of new to it. I mean, I guess, do you stay with them for a long time? Like, was it
Yeah, I do medium term, I do long term. So yeah, I've been working with people for 6 months now.
how
So
rewarding it's going to be to watch them grow from maybe even if you stayed with them for a year, 2, 3 years to try to, I can't think of anything more rewarding, to be honest with you, is watching someone grow like
yeah,
on a level that must be so fucking rewarding because it
it
reflects back to
is.
you and it reminds you of what you're doing ultimately. But then watching them flower and change is like, oh my god.
It just means, as I said at the beginning, it means the world to me, and I feel so deeply, so fully fulfilled. And that's why I'm doing this work, because nothing else in the world I felt would satisfy me at this deep level. To see people grow in that way and to give them everything that I know and that I've learned and that I've discovered in myself through my own sweat and through my own toil of trying to heal myself and grow. And so the fruits of that, passing them onwards and seeing them rippling into their families and their communities, as like I'm working with one person, but actually through that person, I'm what I'm giving them has an effect on all those other people around them that they're coming into contact with. So yeah, that's fascinating to see.
Yeah, it's truly blessed. Okay, so before we go, is there anything last thing you want to say? And also, can you drive us towards your website? I'll put it under links, I guess, on the YouTube too, but let us know about that too.
Yeah, it's simple. It's www.bristenamantu.com. That's BRISTENAMANTU.com.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm taking on more clients in September onwards.
Yeah.
And what else can I say? I mean, I'm really happy that I see you, on this journey of learning and discovering and evolving and absorbing so much of good, nutritious information and
Oh,
knowledge from many different people. So yeah, I see the drive that I was talking about earlier. I see it very much alive and kicking in you, and it's wonderful to witness that.
thanks. You too. And I look forward to getting to know you more in the future. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And thank you everyone else for watching. So have a lovely day, everyone. Peace.